Hey everybody, it's Chad Hyams here. Welcome to another episode of the Achieve Your Apex podcast. Now, we are talking about following in the footsteps of others. And in the last episode, I talked to you about growing up as a kid when it snowed, literally walking in the footprints of somebody in front of us. Now, that is a great way for you to get to point A to point B. Follow the footsteps that are right in front of you. They often show you the path. People know the best way to get places. Yet, sometimes we have to adapt the route. Maybe something has happened since that person walked through the path. The plow came by, so now all of a sudden we have to adapt the route. Maybe you're driving and your GPS, I know, we know that we're supposed to follow the GPS, yet how many of us don't? We think we know better. And we will be driving a certain way and we will start to say, my GPS hasn't figured it out yet traffic is starting to form. I need to adapt my route and make a change. And it is okay when that is what we need to do. Adapting the route will happen. Sometimes we have to just have the guideline, right? If I'm driving a long distance, maybe parts of that trip make sense, but maybe there's small little parts I have to be able to adapt and make a change. If you got a great GPS, it does it for you when needed, right? It'll just all of a sudden, no traffic. It'll say, hey, we've recalculated. That's adapting the route along the way. Now, adapting the route happens in so many different ways that we have seen. Think about all the athletes out there. Doesn't matter if you're athletic or you're just an athletic supporter or you couldn't care less about any of it. It could be in car racing and the speed that happens if you're a car person. You could be talking about cycle racing, running, swimming, whatever it's going to be. All of a sudden, a record is set. Everybody's so excited, a record is set, and then the new record is set not long after. And it's set by hundreds of thousands of a second, or maybe portions of a second. Why? Because people are adapting something along the way, right? They are adapting. We all know the story of Michael Phelps. He adapted swimming training. What did he do? He trained every day of the week. He didn't take a day off like so many swimmers would take back then. He got in, therefore, 52 more days of training than everybody else. That is why he was able to set records and records. He trained better, stronger, to be faster. Then we have small changes. I'm a huge cycling fan, Nita, and I love the Tour de France and all the little tours you probably don't even know about that happen. And yes, the athletes get stronger. Yet what also happens in technology, what also happens in manufacturing, that they figure out just a small little change on a bike can make a difference. Just a small little change on the way the outfit they're wearing aerodynamically helps, that all of a sudden they set records by thousands of seconds or by a second or maybe minutes in certain cases. But what I want you to understand is the route always needs some sort of adaptation, because that person who made the footprints before you might have been taller than you. And if they were taller than you, you're going to have trouble at some point keeping up. You might be able to keep up with the first few strides. Then you have to adapt the route and maybe put a step in between to get back on their stride. Adapting the route should never scare you. The best thing to do when adapting it is keep an eye on the route. Okay, it's right over there. I see the path. I'm just making this one little change to see if it's going to benefit me. And if it doesn't, it's easy to get back on the path. And if it does, well, then maybe I'm opening up a new path that people are going to realize, yes, here, veer off. Look at the change that it brought as a result. Okay, so we're following in the footsteps of others. Sometimes we need to, adapt the footsteps of others. We can't move their footsteps, but we can adapt how we follow them. And then there's the third thing. Sometimes we need to just have our own path altogether. Right? Sometimes we need to just say, nope, I'm going that way. Right? And there are differences that'll happen. Now, here's the thing. I've been using the snow analogy because it's one I remember so much growing up. I moved to Florida for a reason. May I never have to deal with it again. All right. Sometimes a fresh snowfall happens and those footprints are gone. You now have to stake your own path. You might have an idea of what the path used to look like because you know, oh, people would do this when they walked in the snow. So I'm going to do this because it'll probably be close. Yet there is no path for you to actually follow and confirm. And every situation, a little different, might need a different path. So remember, you can follow it, you can adapt it. Sometimes we need to completely stake our own path. I mean, there are so many examples of people who did stake their own path. How about Magellan, right? Figured out a way to circumnavigate because they went a different path and changed the way things are. They created a new path for others to follow, right? There are so many different people that we can talk about, specifically explorers back when. There are probably some businesses I'm just not pulling right now that have changed the path on how we do certain things, that they're not just taking a certain path and adapting it. It's just a brand new path that showed up. Think about, well, again, Usain Bolt is one of my favorite athletes of all time. He had a very different running style to people. He struck out with his own path there and said, I'm not following that path. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I have this, and off he went. Now, have people attempted to replicate him since? Sure, because he has followed a certain path, right? For a long time, weightlifting was not considered important in so many other sports. It was just a thing they did. Now look at what's happened with some of these people and how they've adjusted. You can be sure cyclists in the Tour de France years and years and years ago probably weren't in a gym. You know, golfers were not in the gym until Tiger Woods came and struck out a new path. And now look at the golfers of today's world and how they have followed in the path of Tiger Woods, how they have followed in the path of Michael Phelps, how they have followed in the path of others that struck out and generated their own path. Now, when it comes to your own path, what I want you to remember is it is scary. We get the excitement at the beginning. Hey, we're doing something no one else has done. And we should have that moment where we stop and think, what's the reason no one else did it? Right? There's got to be a reason. Maybe a few people did go a few steps on that path and then quickly realized, no, this path's a dead end. You have to be ready to understand failure is coming when you strike out on your new path. Okay, when you set out to build your own path, you're going to have to remember there's going to be those steps back because you're going to go down that trail and realize, whoop, big boulder, can't go this way, got to go that way to change the path a little. And be ready to embrace failure. If failure is not something you embrace well, follow someone else's path, okay? You also have to understand that persistence will be required when you want your own path. So whether you're following in someone's footsteps in the snowy day or in the building success or in the body-changing success they have had by following their program for weight loss, whether you're taking someone else's plan and you're tweaking it a little bit here and a little bit there by adjusting it because you saw traffic or you know they ran into this roadblock and you found a way to go around it, or whether you are just having a fresh morning after a beautiful snowfall, being able to make your own path, being able to say, nobody's attempted this before, I'm going to make it happen because I believe truly it will get me to the end faster and I can follow it and stick with it. The path is always there, whether it's literally there or whether it's here in your head, it's there. Go find it, follow it, and you will be easily on your way to achieving any apex that you are climbing towards. Until our next episode, folks, keep climbing.